Hey guys, Pete here. It's time for the weekly spoiler report. There's been a lot of stuff going on in Spain this week, and there's been a ton of pictures making their way to the internet. This is the official spoiler warning. If you don't like to know what's happening behind the scenes, where cast members are, or what the actual filming is looking like for the upcoming season, then you won't want to watch this video. I do have a book giveaway going on my channel though, so watch one of my non-spoiler videos to learn more about that. Everyone else stick around to the end and let's jump right into it. So the hype's been building for several weeks about the shooting going on around Cáceres. We've had a lot of shots of things being set up, and we had news last week about a replacement for Dickon Tarly. This week we've seen more pictures of Tom Harper and James Faulkner together, and we're assuming that this means that Hopper will play Randyll Tarly's son, Dickon. Dickon is Sam's little brother, but he was passed up to be the family heir because, well, as we learned last season, Randyll kind of hates Sam. So even though we did have a different actor play Dickon last season, it looks like it's been changed to Tom Harper. Fans caught several pictures of the two together in the streets, and it really seems like James Faulkner is a friendly guy who does not mind getting his picture taken. Anyways, they weren't there just for fun. They were actually filming, and we know that Jamie and Bronn were involved in these scenes as well. The news was that there were hundreds of extras, and Los Siete Reinos managed to record actual shots of the filming taking place. They released two short videos that showed the armies moving around early in the week and reported that there were more than 300 troops that were foot soldiers and about 70 horses involved in the scene. They also said that the director Matt Shackman was spotted shooting a sequence for episode 4 of next season. At the same time they were shooting episode 4, a large base camp of the filming trailers showed up at Los Barracos. I have to apologize to the Spanish-speaking fans out there. I try my best, but I just really don't have the language. On top of the trucks and other equipment, Los Siete Reinos also spotted a giant green screen being put up as part of the set. Remember, they're going to be there for 3 whole weeks in this area, and this is going to be that big ambush scene, so I expect that we'll continue to see big things. The next report came from the Spanish publication El Periódico Extremadura. They released a ton of photos which appear to actually confirm all of what we were talking about last week. Their pictures show that there are a horde of Dothraki who are attacking those caravans that were previously taken away from Highgarden. It was the booty or the spoils of sacking the Tyrell castle. El Periódico Extremadura story is based on eyewitness reports, which we can see that they're actually taking photos and can see what's going on. They're describing the scene as an attack with a large number of horses charging towards an imaginary enemy. But either way, it's imaginary for the moment since there's going to be something else added in later on. Watchers on the wall printed that Los Siete Reinos was able to confirm a bunch of the other things that we were talking about when it comes to the ambush from last week. Basically, the Lannisters marching with the loaded caravans and the Dothraki charging. One thing to note is that even though we've seen Jamie, Bronn, and the others in Spain, Emilia Clarke was actually spotted in Belfast, and at least up until this point hasn't made it back to Spain yet. On the third day of photos getting out, we got a real upgrade to the quality. We also got some of the most interesting spoilery stuff to talk about or speculate about, so this was probably the most exciting day this week. Last week, the photographer Rick Zarnow uploaded some good photos of the crew getting ready, and then this week he added a bunch of stuff to his Twitter account. These are high quality images where you can make out a lot of the different details related to the cast and the set. We also see a few green screens in there, which I guess would be able to work for making the scenes with even more soldiers and other special effects. That same day, another Twitter user named Hafi released more pictures of the scene, and we can see Randyll Tarly and probably Dickon Tarly on horseback in one of the shots. This is actually interesting because their group of soldiers are marching with the Lannisters. Now, think about it for a moment. The Tarlys are pledged to House Tyrell, and we know at the end of the last last season that House Tyrell threw in with Daenerys. If the Tarlys are now marching with the Lannisters, then that means that there's been a betrayal. So it's been pretty usual this season that we'll always see a lot more photos coming out of Spain, but that doesn't mean they weren't shooting at all in Belfast this week. And even though we didn't get any set shots, we did get a lot of the cast members out and about, which gives us an idea of who's going to be involved in some of those scenes around Wolf Hill Quarry. Emilia Clarke and Natalie Emmanuel, who play Daenerys and Missandei, put some pictures on Instagram where they tagged the location as Belfast. We also got pictures of Sansa, Jorah Mormont, Tormund, and even one of Kit Harington going to the dentist. Even though all those people were there, Sansa and Tormund have already left the city and been photographed elsewhere, and there's been photos of Davos being in Abu Dhabi, and it looks like Natalie Emmanuel is back in London. We'll have to check back next week to see if they go back to Belfast or not. Hi-Fi also put out some more photos from his original ones of the battle, where we get to see the Tarly forces a lot closer. We can see for sure that they're helping the Lannister army out in a couple of these shots, which leaves no speculation about which side they're on. Los Siete Reinos also put out a couple more pictures that have really great detail, where we can see that they're helping the Lannisters fortify a shield wall, but we can't tell what they're defending or going up against. We don't see Grey Worm or any Unsullied in action in any of the shooting that's happened yet, but there have been pictures of him showing up around town. This could be an indication that some of the earlier reporting about the Unsullied not being involved in the ambush scene was incorrect. But of course, we're going to have to wait and see if we actually see them in the battle before we can jump to any real conclusions. That's the extent of all the new photos that we got this week, but don't forget there's going to be 3 more weeks of shooting where we're going to get a ton more stuff. Apparently the days have been so long and the conditions pretty strenuous because some of the actors who are used for extras have actually filed suit for not getting paid overtime for 15-hour days. They also mentioned things like having rushed lunch breaks and things like that. So that's awful if they have bad conditions, but it's probably going to be good for us in that this scene is really going to be as epic as the hype's been. Since the Game of Thrones Season 6 DVD set came out last week, they were holding different events around the country, and Ellie Kendrick, who plays Mira, did an interview with MTV, which showed up in Vulture. It's an interesting read where she talks about the Starks and the fierce loyalty that the Reeds have for them. She talks about her role as being Bran's protector and nothing else. In other words, she's not trying to guide his story, she's just there to make sure nothing happens to him. And she talks about her love for Bran's story, which is pretty cool. She says she loves the storyline that he has because he's this kid who's been forgotten, but he has these incredible powers to unleash. She said it reminds her of Stranger Things, and that, you know, he looks small and weak, but he's got this immense strength and capability of mind. And then the one thing that she said that really stood out to me was that's going to be one of the most exciting things in the coming episodes because he can reveal all of the past and the future. Now that's a pretty direct statement, but I think it's kind of vague at the same time, if that makes any sense. The direct quote is, he can reveal all of the past and the future. Personally, I don't take this literally. I think what it says is he can reveal, as in he can see different parts in time, because obviously one human being can't process the entirety of the past and the future. I mean, that's impossible. Although they can pull out specific events and important things that they could be, that they could be shown in visions, like we've seen Bran do in the past whenever he is connected to the Weirwood trees. Hopefully you guys have all watched my Bran videos, especially the last one I put out about his importance in the story. And I feel like this interview just checks off one more box in the Bran is super important checklist, if you will. Overall, it's a really cool interview, so you should definitely check it out. The final bit of news is a pretty interesting little tidbit from some of the pictures that we actually saw last week. I first saw this on Twitter through the Yeah Clark Dragon's Daughter account, but then later Watchers on the Wall mentioned it too. So at the filming we saw at Trujillo Castle, where they had all those shots on top of the wall with the Lannister army and their allies after they sacked Highgarden, Adrian Alonso, who just has a really good eye, I guess, and recognized that Jaime was carrying Widow's Wail, which was the Valyrian steel sword that Tywin had made for King Joffrey. Remember, Tywin melted down House Stark's Valyrian blade ice into 2 smaller blades. The first was for Jaime, which Brienne now has, which we know as Oathkeeper, and the smaller smaller of the two blades was given to King Joffrey, which he named Widow's Wail. So we could go off the rails speculating here. I mean, Jaime still doesn't have his original sword hand, but perhaps he's been practicing, and because of the smaller size, he's gotten pretty good with his left hand. I guess what the most exciting speculation would be, or should I say sensational, would be if we get to see Brienne, who's carrying the other half of ice, and Jaime locked in a battle where the two swords go head to head. Of course, that's completely based off the fact that they're on opposing sides in the war, and we definitely don't know what's going to happen once the Seven Kingdoms are faced with the true threat, which is coming from the north. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about all these big battle scenes shaping up. Are you surprised that House Tarly turned its back on House Tyrell? Remember, the last time there was an uprising against the crown in Robert's Rebellion, the Tarlys actually remained loyal to the Targaryens. So historically, this doesn't exactly make sense, which means that the Lannisters must have offered them something that was worth what basically amounts to treason about going against their liege lords. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and make sure to follow me on Twitter and all the other social media accounts if you want to talk there. As mentioned, I do have a book giveaway going on, and all you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video or any of the other videos where I mention this giveaway. When I reach 28,000 subscribers, I'll pick one comment at random, and I'll award that commenter a free copy of the new 20th anniversary edition of A Game of Thrones. It's an illustrated edition, and it's really cool, and you're definitely going to want to have it to add to your collection. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.